Are the Jets ready to soar in 2024? Heading into last season, optimism was through the roof for long-suffering fans of the New York Jets. The club had seemingly finally ended its lengthy search for a franchise QB with the offseason acquisition of Aaron Rodgers. As the team got set to open the season at home under the bright lights of Monday Night Football, the atmosphere was downright electric. Rodgers marched the team out onto the field, and it was pretty tough not to feel like things were going to finally break the Jets' way. They didn't. Disaster struck soon after kickoff, and it felt like the New York football season was over before it began. As the lengthy offseason winds down, there's once again a whole lot of buzz surrounding the Jets. Is it truly warranted this time around? Or are the New York faithful setting themselves up for even more headache? Before we get into all of that, please take a quick second to like this video and hit the subscribe button. That really helps the channel. We'll keep you in the loop on the Jets and the rest of the league throughout the preseason and beyond. After the pomp and circumstance of the opener came to an end, the Bills received the opening kickoff. They couldn't get anything going and were forced to punt to New York following a short drive. A fair catch later, it was Rodgers' time. MetLife Stadium erupted. The first play was an electric 26-yard run by Breece Hall. The Jets got into a shotgun formation. Rodgers launched one deep, but it fell incomplete. On the fourth play of his Jets career, Rodgers once again dropped back to pass. He was sacked for a 10-yard loss. Immediately, it was clear that something wasn't right. Rodgers crouched on the turf. The look on his face pretty much said it all. It didn't take too long for the news to develop from there. Rodgers had suffered a torn Achilles and would be done for the season. Zach Wilson took over under center. The Jets managed to rally for a stirring win in overtime, capped off by a 65-yard Xavier Gipson punt return for a TD. While opening at 1-0 is always awesome, the game was essentially an afterthought due to the Rodgers news. New York was staring down the barrel of another season of being among the league's also-rans. After Wilson proved to not be the answer under center, New York had a revolving door at QB, with Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian also seeing starts. The club struggled mightily on offense, averaging 15.8 points per game, fourth worst in the league. It was a vastly different story on defense. Despite not having the offensive firepower to keep up at times, a stout defensive effort kept them in many games that they should have lost handily. The end result was a record of 7-10 and a third-place finish in the AFC East. For the 13th consecutive season, New York spent the postseason at home watching along with the rest of us. It's the longest active playoff drought in the NFL. Current rough patch aside, this is not a franchise that has had a ton of success since its debut in 1960. There have been just 14 playoff appearances, 4 division titles, and a lone Super Bowl win. The last run of actual success came in the 2009-2010 seasons. The Jets made it to the AFC title game both times, losing to the Colts and the Steelers, respectively. Mark Sanchez was the franchise QB way back when that happened. Since that point, the team has had 15 different starting QBs. The long offseason is in the rearview mirror. The Jets are focused on moving forward. At the NFL Draft, the team's top choice was offensive tackle Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. The 6'6", 312-pound prospect provides even more protection for Rodgers and company. The club grabbed some more offensive depth at later rounds, including wide receiver Malachi Cooley and running back Braylon Allen. Allen could be in the mix for the running back 2 role behind Breece Hall, as a veteran Dalvin Cook proved to not be up to the task a season ago. During free agency, the Jets filled in holes on both sides of the ball. Signings include Mike Williams, who should settle into the wide receiver 2 job. Tyrod Taylor has come to town to serve as the backup to Rodgers, with Wilson off to Denver to continue his career. Defensive end Hassan Reddick was acquired from the Eagles for a conditional draft choice. This is a defense that's already loaded with talent, including players such as Quinnen Williams, C.J. Mosley, and Sauce Gardner. If we flash back to the disappointing 2022 season for a second, another campaign that ended at 7-10, there was still a massive bright spot. Wilson and Gardner won the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year awards. In addition, Hall also exploded onto the scene and averaged 5.8 yards per carry before going down with a torn ACL. He He returned to form last season, just missing out on a 1,000-yard rushing season. All told, he ran for 994 and hauled in another 591 in the passing game. This is a Jets team that's stocked with talent, both of the young and veteran kind. The defense is regarded as one of the better units in the league. Perhaps the offense will join them with a full season from a healthy Rodgers. Now 40 years of age, Rodgers is healed up and ready to go. As has been the case for the past several years, he has made plenty of headlines. A high-profile QB who is not shy about saying what he thinks, he has become a media target and lightning rod. As for the games that matter quickly approach, perhaps the pundits can keep their Rodgers hot takes dialed in on what he delivers on the field. While it's early in camp, clips of him connecting with targets such as Wilson have helped to demonstrate the potential that Jets fans have been clamoring for. Four-time NFL MVP award winner, 1 Super Bowl ring, and 1 Super Bowl MVP award, a league leader in passer rating 4 times, and in TDs twice, a member of the NFL's all-decade team for the 2010s. The resume speaks for itself. Rodgers could retire now and be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. He could have easily walked away after last season's injury, but he didn't want to go out that way. It seems like Rodgers still has something left to prove. That's great news for the Jets, but it could turn out to be bad news for the rest of the league. As the preseason rolls along, the Jets are among the top 12 teams in early odds to win next year's Super Bowl. The AFC East appears to be a 3-team race between them and the rival Bills and Dolphins. Buffalo has had the division on lockdown for the last 4 seasons and are still favorites to win once again, but both New York and Miami will have something to say about how the race turns out. In odds to win the AFC, the Jets are the 6th team on the board. The Chiefs top the list, followed by the Ravens, Bengals, Texans, and Bills. Add it all up, and the expectations for the Bills this season are crystal clear. At a minimum, this squad should be punching a playoff ticket. That said, expectations do not automatically translate into reality in the NFL. We have to look no further than last season for perfect examples of that. The Texans were expected to be among the league's worst teams. Instead, they won the AFC South and made it to the divisional round. The Broncos were expected to battle for a playoff spot, but instead struggled for a record of 8-9. New York also makes the list. Rodgers plus Jets equaled playoffs in many fans' eyes before the season kicked off, but the devastating injury derailed the plans. The Jets will once again open the season on Monday Night Football, this time on the road for a tough test at the 49ers, one of the preseason Super Bowl favorites. For further evidence of the excitement surrounding New York, the Jets are currently scheduled for 6 primetime games, all of which come before a bye in Week 12. Thanks to the league's flex scheduling policy for the latter part of the season, there could be even more to come if the Jets are in the hunt come December. If that comes to pass, New York could be in line for a hugely entertaining football season. The icing on the cake would be a return to the postseason, while a Lombardi Trophy and confetti shower remains as the dare to dream scenario.